This
We'll all put
conference
this.
will now be recorded.
Yeah, you can start. Okay, you can start.
Okay, fine. Okay. So, yeah, I think the last time what we discussed was on the area of LBN, right? Like what are the different features and functionalities? Do you recollect what we covered last time? Anyone? Anyone recollect? What are the main features, no, functionalities what LBN supports?
Yes, there are three, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Material um, traceability, track and trace, and uh, I don't recall the first one. What is the name?
Okay. So basically, it's freight collaboration, material traceability, and global track and trace. Okay. So these are the three features what we already actually what LBN supports there. And in order to have this particular functionality work, so there are few prerequisite which we need to basically ensure that this is in place, or else your LBN will not work. Okay. So I'm just writing something because this is the task which we will not be doing anything from functional perspective. So first of all, it's a onboarding checklist. Okay. So why we have to onboard the checklist? Because as I told you last time, that whenever we are going to set up the LBN, it is important that it's a homogeneous platform where both shipper and the carrier tenant are on the same platform, right? So accordingly, you need to basically specify what is the checklist we need to perform, because unless the carrier is onboarded, you will not be able to make the features and the functionalities work. Okay. So as part of the onboarding checklist, if whether it's a new carrier or whether already the carrier have an account but they want to basically have more features and functionalities, you need to basically have this onboarding checklist applicable. So first thing, so I'm writing something here. So first of all, when it is for a new carrier, we need to open the hyperlink. So as a carrier, okay, to place the order, and you have to register in SAP account. So this is the onboarding checklist. Okay. Now, as part of the carrier, once this is done, so you receive the activation mail. The carrier will receive the activation mail. So as part of this SAP receive activation mail, basically you need to activate the SAP account by clicking in the button in the email. So where you need to add the different company details of the carrier. The third part is receive the next email. So receive the next email means there is another email where once the activation mail is done, this is a mail which will confirm that the account has been created successfully. Okay. So that means the carrier will receive another mail. The next part is we need to activate the BNL profile. So again, after few hours, another email will be shared with the carrier where BNL profile will be activated. Okay, and then once this is done, then the URL and the logon credential will be maintained. So these are all activities by the basis person. Okay, there is nothing the functional guy needs to do. And finally, the carrier will log on to the URL. So there is a particular app which is known as the Manage Business Profile app, where all the profiles have to be saved and the LBN ID will be provided. So the carrier has to provide the LBN ID to the shipper. Okay. So after the shipper sends out the request for connection, then because unless the LBN ID is generated, there will be no communication between the shipper and the carrier. So once the shipper sends out the request for connection, then there is a manage invite app. So this is an app, manage invite, where the invitation will be accepted. Okay, I'll go through these details, and finally you have to basically manage the user and the assign groups. Okay, so this is some of the onboarding list or onboarding checklist which you need to activate in order to basically complete the onboarding process. Okay, so whenever you are going to do this, so you need to basically have certain activities which is done by your SAP team only in order to register them. Okay, any questions so far?
All these activities need to be performed by the basis team, right?
By SAP will do this, because ultimately when you are working on this, everything will be done by basis team. Basis means from SAP perspective.
Okay.
Okay, so when I go into this, that open the hyperlink to place an order. So this first, so there is a, you have to use the SAP OSS user ID and password. So there is an option create account. Okay, so that means you are placing a request for your tenant to apply for this account. Okay, so you have to have a SAP OSS account where you can enter the registration. Okay, so that means an account has to be created, because unless you create an account, you cannot use the BN4L access. Okay, so this account is nothing but SAP store account. That means your OSS user ID account. Okay, so you need to activate the account for the SAP store, and you'll get a confirmation that the SAP store account is added. Okay, now once you do this, the carrier basically needs to add the company details. Okay, the company details has to be added, which is the second step. Here you need to basically add what is the company organization, what is the address, what is the pin code, city, state, industry. Okay, and there you need to also specify the dates. Okay, so there has to be a date which you need to, okay, you need to add those things. Okay, now once you do this, there is an option that place order. Place order means the third, this one. So here you need to place an order, because for the B2B tenants, there are certain data centers which are involved when you are placing the order for the account. So because the carrier may operate in US, the carrier may operate in Europe, etc. So you need to basically specify some credentials there. Okay, and once you do this, so it will show you some steps which you need to configure again. I think once this is, you don't have to do anything here. Okay, then there is a email based on the BNL profile which will be activated. Okay, this is important, because unless you do this, the credentials cannot be maintained. Okay, so I think this activation, this is okay, fine. And then the last one is the LBN ID. So in order to activate the LBN ID, I'll show you in the system. There is a manage business profile app. So this one, in order to provide the LBN ID, you need to name the app which is called as the manage business profile. Manage business profile. Okay. And then there is an app which is known as the user management app. Okay. So here through the user management app, you need to assign the corresponding roles and accesses. This is the user management app. I'll show you this app now. Okay, where you have to set up all the new users. Okay, so there are basically admin users, functional users. So accordingly, what process you want to basically trigger and work on. So according to that, the user and the assign group should be updated. Okay. Now I'll show you how the system looks like. See, if I go here, LBN. So if you see, there will be two users. One is the carrier who will be using this tenant, and another is the shipper who will be using the LBN link. Okay. So here, if I go to the carrier tenant, this is the carrier tenant. Today we'll go through the different apps. Okay. Yeah. So if you see, this is the carrier tenant. So carrier tenant means basically these are the apps which the carrier will basically see when they are opening their tenant. That means when they are operating on the LVN. Okay. So if you see here, this is a manage. So all the features are there. Like for freight order management, you see something. For dock appointment, you see something. For freight execution. So I'm going one by one. So if I go into the freight order management, if you see, so whenever you are basically using the request for quotation process, then this is used. That means when the shipper is triggering the RFQ process, in that case, the freight request for quotation app is visible. Whenever the carrier is submitting the quotation, then the freight quotation app is visible. When the carrier is basically submitting anything for confirmation, that means for any confirmation app, they are using this. Okay. Just one minute. This is for freight order, this is for freight booking, and this is for air freight booking. Okay. This is for dock appointment scheduling. So dock appointment scheduling means this is the part which is being used in case you are activating the process where carrier is coming to pick up the goods from the warehouse. Okay. This is the dock appointment features. This is the freight execution feature. Freight execution means where you can report multiple events. The carrier can report multiple events. Okay. So freight orders for reporting, and then the other things. Any events which they want to report, they can use this app. This is a freight settlement. Freight settlement means here whenever there is any functionalities which the carrier needs to report for freight settlement, like dispute process, sale billing process, manage invoice process, then this can be done. Then if you go down, if I go to business operations, this is nothing but where you can see the logs. Logs means in case there are any error messages where the updates are not happening between the shipper and the carrier tenant, then these logs are useful. Okay. So these are some of the apps which is used in order to execute the day-to-day operations. So in addition to this freight order, freight booking, there are certain apps which you need to activate before you use the transactions. So one is the manage business profile. So when you go to this manage business profile app, so here you can see what is the company of the carrier, what is the employee, who founded, what is the company products, everything you can see, additional address, contact person. So that is a manage business profile app. Okay. Just 1 minute. So here if you see, no, it is not coming. Then if you go to the user management app, all the user ID, password, what needs to be assigned, you can see it here. This is their app for that. Okay. You can add new names where the email ID, user groups as per the roles and authorization can be assigned. This is a manage location app. So manage location app means where you need to assign different locations, because this is required mainly in case you are using dock appointment scheduling feature and all. So when I come there, we will show you. Okay. So here you maintain the locations. This is the Discover Business Partner app. So Discover Business Partner app. I don't know why it is. Okay. Sorry. First of all, you have to invite the business partner. So through this, the business partners are invited to be onboarded to LBN. So accordingly, you can see which carrier has accepted, which is in progress, which has rejected. And this is the manage invitations. So here, in case someone has accepted, you can see the acceptance status. Okay. And this is the settings app. So here you can define the user settings.
Hitendra, can you hear me?
Yeah.
What is the problem with my headphone? I don't understand. You are talking about two different URLs, right?
I'm only talking about carrier URL now.
Then why in the career URL you are talking about the user management?
Why in the carrier we are talking about the user management? Because the user management part is there so that the carriers you can basically assign a role, and accordingly to that you can define which user groups of the carrier can execute or visualize the report what type of transactions. So for that SAP has come up with that. So if you see here, there are two types of this one. One is a carrier link, one is a LBN link. LBN link is different, carrier link is different.
So
Okay.
let's say I am the shipper. So the LBN link is applicable for me,
You are the shipper. You yes, LBN link is applicable for you. Correct.
and the carrier link,
Carrier link will be for the carriers. Who are the carrier? You are not the carrier, no? You are the shipper.
correct.
So the carrier who will be operating, who will be executing the transportation business, so they will have a different link. Okay.
I'm sorry to say, I'm totally confused from the steps, initial steps you started telling. If you open that notepad,
Yeah.
here you said onboarding checklist, open hyperlink to place the order. So what does that mean? The open hyperlink to place the order means you are placing the order to buy the tenant.
See, first thing, your carrier is not in SAP, right? Your carrier is in non-SAP account. So how do you make them workable in SAP? For that, you need to invite them to be onboarded. So in order to invite them to be onboarded, you have to perform some steps, which the SAP guys will do it by taking the credentials, by taking the important often information about the carrier. Okay. So that's why you need to do this activation, or else SAP will not be accessible to the carrier, right?
Yes. So what I'm misunderstanding here,
Huh.
when you say place open hyperlink to place the order with registered SAP account, so
Yeah.
that means we are logging into the shipper your link URL and then sending an invite to a carrier.
Yes. You have to send the inviting to the carrier. Yes. The
Okay.
carrier needs to accept.
And the carrier opens in order to then the carrier gets the second link, which is the carrier link through that,
Yeah.
and then
So
he
when
clicks the link and he gets a activation mail and he clicks the link
correct.
and he logs in, he enters the credentials, whatever he I don't know he the user ID we should somebody has to create a user ID for him, right? That
In
is a
order Yeah, in order to create, see, user ID password will come later. First of all, once he accepts the onboarding invitation, okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
then automatically you will get a subscription that this is the user and this is the password. That will be maintained by SAP only, because SAP this carrier will not will create a user ID and password. Okay, so once that onboarding part is done, like in a company when we get onboarded, the user ID password is generally created by HR, for example, right? And they
Mhm.
hand it over to you. Correct.
Mhm.
Same thing you have to do it here. Okay. So you have to go inside. The carrier have to go inside. They have to accept all the terms, conditions, credentials, and everything, and then an user ID and password will be generated. And that too, see, for some carrier, why these user groups are required? Because maybe for this particular feature, you only want to activate subcontracting and tendering. You don't want settlement and all to be there, right? Then why to unnecessary give them access to all the Fury apps, right? You can control through that. Okay. So, for example, in my current project, they are currently only are interested to do subcontracting and events reporting. I don't care about settlement. So, why to unnecessarily load, those settlement apps also? Okay.
Mhm.
So, for that reason, you can control through the user groups and all. Okay. So, that is a process which you can do. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not clear. Anyway, please continue. I hope we will.
Yeah. See, this is a platform, right? So, for example, just think about like you have your own user ID password, Amazon portal, or like the user also have the own user ID password when you place an order, right? Just think about in that way. So, when you are placing an order in Amazon, you have your own user ID password. Once your shipping ID is generated, Then the retailer with their own user ID password will basically log in and will see that okay, this is the order you have placed in the merchandise at cart portion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the retail merchandise picks up those orders and they deliver. They send a notification and accordingly the status is updated in Amazon. Same thing we do it here. It's like a same platform, right? But someone needs to generate the user ID password, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but you said it is SAP. Why SAP is doing that?
SAP is doing that because ultimately it's a cloud-based platform which SAP is controlling. You are not allowed to do any configuration. You're not allowed to do any development.
But
Okay.
why I am asking this? See, I bought the LBN tenant license.
Correct.
Okay, as a shipper, I bought it, and I am telling how many carriers I want to onboard. So within the LBN product owner or the LBN administrator in my company or the transportation manager or whoever the role, he will be doing it. Or why the SAP is involved here?
SAP is creating the default value. You are always you can always feel free to change the user ID password. Who will do the onboarding? Neither shipper will do the onboarding, neither carrier. Some party has to be there who does the onboarding, right?
No, no, that's what I'm saying. That should be done by a let's say, let's take an example, Volvo. Okay, Volvo bought the LBN, so they bought a tenant license.
Hmm.
Okay, I bought the LBN software. Cloud, I bought the LBN software access. Now I am saying, okay, I want to onboard first carrier. So that means that transportation planning manager, he logs into LBN and he says, okay, I want to onboard a carrier and this is the email address. So he generates the email. He says, okay, this is the email address. I send a activation email to a carrier.
So how will you, when you say the activation email of the carrier, with what AS user ID and password you will log into to generate the SAP store account? Who will provide that? SAP provides that.
But
That is
I
only.
want the SAP license for this LBN, right, in the cloud. So I should already have a login ID and password.
How can carrier have the login ID and password?
No, no, no.
Carrier
I'm
will.
not talking about career. I think it's look to me. We have to draw the picture in a different way to understand this. I'm not talking about career. I am a transport manager. I am a shipper. Okay. I am Volvo. So I am a transport planning manager. I want to. I bought a license. We bought a license. Okay. Volvo is a company. I bought a license for LBN, and I need to onboard 10 carriers.
What is your question? I'm not now speaking about shipper. I'm talking about only carrier. So I'm not able to understand why you're talking about shipper now. Shipper, I have not shown you the app also. I'm only talking about the different apps and all from the carrier perspective. Have I shown you anything on the shipper perspective? I don't think so. Shipper link is completely different. This is a shipper link. I have not shown. I have not come to that. Why you are talking about shipper now? If you
Uh,
want to, if you want to see shipper, shipper is completely a different link. It opens into a different one. See, if you go here, so what is your question? I'm not able to understand. I mean, sir,
See,
I was talking about carrier. You are talking about shipper.
yes, but you are suddenly started with a career. Why we need to go to a career? We have to start from a shipper, and then shipper should send the request to the carrier, right? Onboard a carrier.
See, there are two ways. I have not started anything. Okay, let me clear it out. I am just explaining you the apps. I have not started anything. I'm just explaining you the apps, what is there for a career.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Please listen carefully before we diverge what we are talking about. Have I spoken about anything about this? I don't think so. I'm just explaining what are the different apps that the carrier can access to perform the transaction. Whether it's Volvo and all, you are talking mostly from the shipper. I'm not caring about shipper now. I'm only telling you that these are the steps. And if you have any question, please reach out to SAP. That's all I can tell you, because this is how SAP is managing this entire network portfolio, right? This is nothing a custom setup. Okay.
Okay.
And if you have to challenge SAP, why SAP
No,
is
no,
doing
it's not a
it, I
challenge.
don't have any
I'm
option.
lost because you straight away started with the career. Let's say, for example, what I expect is when you start, we start with a shipper. Okay, as a shipper, I log into LBN portal. This is how I log in. Okay, I log in here, and then I make a request to onboard a carrier. So that is what I was expecting. Then you
See, there
start.
are two variants. Maybe your expectation, I just tell you. So there are two variants to it. Okay. Because see, first of all, I did not go into the process.
Mhm.
I'm just showing you the apps. Okay.
Okay, okay. Then let I will park my question. Let
Yeah,
me.
yeah. It's better you first listen it out and then we
Mhm.
can ask the question. So I'm just explaining the apps first of all. And it is a wrong conception that the carrier has to always be in the shipper tenant. Carrier can also directly create a transaction in S4TM and directly just the carrier can review the freight order and freight booking. That is the incorrect notion that carrier will access TM. Again, carrier will have access to shipper tenant. That is not how it works. Okay, you can
Mhm.
directly create in TM a freight order, freight booking, whatever is it, and directly using that the tracking ID number, which is a freight order number, the carrier can directly access that particular app to review the freight order number and do the confirmation, subcontracting, and all, and that will get updated in TM. So in our current tenant, what you are seeing here, we directly have done the integration between the SAP TM S4HANA TM 2023 version with the
Mhm.
carrier tenant. We don't need to again log into the carrier because we don't again need to log into the shipper tenant. Not required. Or else it will be a two things you have to always manage. So we create a transaction in TM and directly we will manage the updates in the carrier tenant, and then once the carrier tenant is updated, it will send directly back into TM, which you can see. That is how the entire landscape is about. And you did not give me the chance to explain also. Okay, give me the chance what we have in the scope. I'm just showing you the apps.
Mhm. Okay, okay.
Okay. Okay, fine. Now again I have to go back again because I think I logged off. Okay, so again I go into the carrier tenant. Okay, see, this is the part which I was showing you. See, this we did not activate for this carrier because I want to show you what you have. See, if you see this user settings, this is very, very important. Why this is important? Because if you see, these are the whole lot of features and functionalities which SAP has provided. Okay, so you can always subscribe accordingly. Okay, like for example, once the invitations are accepted, once the freight order is sent for confirmation, once the freight order is cancelled, once the freight booking is created, once the update freight booking is done, in case you are canceling any cutoff date, in case you are creating any new appointment for the carrier to come and pick up the goods, RFQ process. So there should be a subscribe portion here. This is called as a subscription model. So based on the subscription model, those particular features and functionalities should be activated. Okay. This is about the disputes. This is about the so all the feature, those four critical pillars, what we spoke of. First of all, this subscription should be there. Okay. So this is that particular app which we are just seeing. Okay, this is called as a user settings app. Okay, and another important thing what you need to know always that there is, and this app is very, very important, this one, because sometimes what happens, suppose you are creating something from the transport management system and then suppose the updates did not work in your LBN, or in case suppose the updates are sent by carrier from their LBN, it did not update team. For that reason, we have this manage integration log app. So this integration log app is your an analysis tool. Why the particular things did not go? What are the fail logs? You can see all of them. Okay, you can see everything. So these are some of the features and core features and functionalities of the app. Now this is for the carrier. Any question on these apps? We'll again for each of the scenario we'll see what are the apps which gets updated, and every app you see have a this number. This number means suppose how many have been particular reported. 16 means suppose the invoices, 16 invoices are in were created but this is in
Uh,
draft status. So these values indicates the number of documents.
Berendra,
Yeah,
um, I have two questions. In
yeah,
the settings, you show all the application that the carrier is available to see, right?
correct, correct.
Now, um, in the managed integration law, how the carrier knows or I mean, what is the knowledge of the carrier to manage the if an integration fail? Because from carrier perspective, for them it is transparent if the freight order arrived or not. So how they can handle the managed integration log?
See, this manage integration log. So I think it's a very good question. So this manage integration log. So there is a separate training which is done by SAP with this carrier. Okay. So once you're buying this subscribe version model, this is the app. There are some other apps also which you see. There is a common training center given to them. Now either SAP. So what happens whenever suppose the updates are not going? The if you have a core team of the carrier who is handling the day-to-day transactions, and if the updates are not happening, then they can always go through this log. Or else you have to open the system for the SAP guys. Okay, they go into these logs and then they analyze why the updates do not go by, because they have to analyze the payload. So there is a payload which is the communication medium between the shipper and the carrier tenant. So if it is not carrier who says no, I don't have the enough expertise or I don't have enough, the resource to analyze this, then obviously either from the AMS or from the implementation team they have to get access and do this, or as SAP can also log through this. So whenever there is any issue in the LBN portal, basically there is a tendency that we raise an OSS to SAP, and then SAP get the access and they do the analysis why the payload is failing. This is how it works. It is little bit different, because in standard what happened when you are setting up any interface with a third party carrier and all who are not on LB and all, generally it is either the PI team or it is generally the warehousing third party non SAP team who analyzes the payload, and then they tell okay the mapping is incorrect and all, right?
Perimeter of square is side square. Darling,
Okay, what time says?
4s.
Okay, so this is the log app which you have to do, or else you have to rest on SAP to analyze this. But ideally, many of the carriers, because the training is given, what they do, they just download the payload and they hand it over to SAP or the implementation team to do that. Okay. Any other question here?
No.
Okay. So apart from this, there is the second app, which is the shipper tenant. So this is the shipper tenant. So when we go to this app, already we have this app open. You will see more or less many of the apps are same. Okay. You'll see many of the apps are same, but there are some certain new delta apps also which is there. So for example, if you go through this, so here you have the system connections app. So when you go to the system connections app, so this is the basic connectivity which is being set up. If you see now, suppose I'm working on S4H100, so this is created already. The connection should be activated, authentication should be maintained. Again, this will be all done by the the basis team. Okay. So these are the different systems with which your LBN is connected. So that's why you see a lot of systems. Okay. So this is again which you need to have. So this is one of the first prerequisite, that the tenant connection should be there. Without this, the data flow will not happen. Okay. Next comes the manage business profile app. So when you go to this manage business profile app, so if you see here, this is the ID of the shipper. Okay. So this is for shipper. The last time what we saw was for carrier. So here you can basically add specification about the shipper details, shipper organization ID. Okay, how many business, what is the revenue, what are the contacts, what are the additional address. So accordingly, you can basically add the keywords here. Okay. The third is manage notification. So manage notification means basically you need to send a notification to the carrier. So suppose I'm canceling certain I am canceling the appointment. Okay. So if you're canceling the appointment, whether you want to send a notification to the career portal or not, accordingly you need to create this, put it as yes. Cancel appointment. So I have generally put it for all, because whatever changes I'm making in my shipper tenant, that should be sent as a notification to all my the carrier who are operating in that tenant. So they have classified it. See, based on dock appointment, they have these 6 7 features. Similarly, if you go to the freight booking, you have cancel, you have create, so all are generally activated. Update. If you are rejecting something, you can put it as yes. Then comes a freight order. So this is freight booking, this is freight order. So when you come to the freight order, you can say, you can confirm your freight order, reject your quotation, award quotation, cancel RFQ, new freight order for confirmation, all these things. Okay. This is a first settlement. Whether you have to resolve your dispute, update your dispute, invoice submission after dispute. So all the notifications, what you want to do, you have to put this as on even notification as activated yes. And last is a freight tracking. Okay. So this is your managed notification. So this is your different locations. So you need to have the locations, because what happens when the transportation management is sending some information, okay, your shipper tenant should also have those information in your system. Okay. So for that reason, the managed location app is used, and mainly this managed location app is used in case you want to also specify the dock appointment feature. Okay, so that means for the locations from where the carrier will pick up the goods, you need to basically assign those locations here. Okay, so that's, and so you can use a custom program, or you can use basically upload from an Excel also what are the locations you want to update. Okay, so I'll show you this later on, how you upload and how do you create this. Okay, but this is mainly used.
Those,
Yeah.
hold on, sorry,
Yeah.
but those locations are created in TM or not?
Yes. Yeah.
They should.
Locations are created in TM. This is mainly from the dock appointment feature. So that means the locations from where the carrier will come and do the slot booking, or the
Mhm.
locations from where the carrier will come and pick up the goods, for those locations only you need to create. It's not that you need to create locations same as what you have in TM. Okay, so there are parameters you need to maintain here. What is the source object type, source system and external ID, geographical coordinates, alternative ID. So this is only required in case you are doing the dock appointment feature. Okay.
Okay, but maybe my question is more, those locations um need to be created in TM, and then
Yes.
mm, maybe it's a future topic, but those locations are transferred from TM to LBN or L4B. Hello.
I think we lost him.
Oh yeah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes, you are now.
Okay, 1 minute. Can you see my screen?
not yet.
No,
Sorry, can you see my
no,
screen?
No,
no.
yet.
We can.
Okay, okay. Uh, 1 minute. I'm sharing the screen again. Is it visible now?
Hmm.
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear. See.
Yeah, we can see you.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Okay. I don't know why somehow it got changed. Okay. So this is the location.
Yes, but then my question is more related to the integration between TM and LBN. I mean,
Huh.
those locations need to be created in TM, and then there is some kind of transfer to LBN, or they need to be created manually in LBN.
No, you don't have to create the locations manually. So if you are not activating the dock appointment feature, you don't need to trigger or create any locations manually again. It will always be there. The only thing what we need to do, because when you are creating a dock appointment feature, we need to create a location and then you have to assign a loading point. Okay. So it is only applicable if you are actually activating the dock appointment feature, or else it is not required. Okay. You don't have to create them again manually and all. It is already there, because the integration is such
Oh,
that you have the standard services, whether you
okay,
are
okay.
using PI or whether you are using CPI or whether you are using SOA manager.
Hmm.
Okay, so through that particularly whatever master data you are creating, it will be there in your LVN. Okay, this is the system connections. Okay, I think this is there for your career. You don't need to do here. Sorry. And this one is also not required. Now, specific one important thing is this assigned codes. This is the additional thing what you have in Shipper. Assigned codes means here what you have to do basically. If you see, if you want that document reference type or specific shipping type or transport means type, if you want that your LVN should have a different code as compared to transport management, then only you require it, or else it's not required. So that's why I kept all of them as blank. You don't need to do anything here unless you feel that you're mapping in your career system. So this is where it is required. This is required mainly, for example, the users are not directly assigning, the career is not directly assigning the LBN. They have their own portal, and through that portal they are accessing the LBN. So there are two types of landscape actually. See, one landscape is what? One landscape is, I'll come to the landscape tomorrow, but just to give an update. So you have your TM system. So from the TM system, suppose you are using either the PI or the CPI or your SOA manager, and then you're connecting to the LBN system, and then from LBN you have the carrier system. So carrier basically is not using or logging directly into the LBN. That can also be a scenario. So they are using their own system, and through their system they are actually accessing the LBN application. Okay, because they feel that there is a lot of work in the LBN, which from the from the administrative perspective they will not be able to cope up. So this is another you know landscape they can have. So in that case, because the carrier IDs and the codes may be different as compared to the LBN, therefore you can define a charge code there. This code you can define there. So when I'll come back to you, I'll explain you all this what is required. I'm just now right now showing you what are these apps used for. Okay. For freight order, I think you already understood that you have an RFQ app, you have a quotation app, you have a confirmation app. For both freight order, there's the same what you saw for carrier. This is the dock appointment. So dock appointment scheduling. So these are the apps what you have for dock appointment. This is the freight tracking app. Freight tracking app means where you can report the milestones, where you can report the events. So if you see here, like there are against this freight order number, you have the departure time, you have the arrival time, what is the status, whether it's overdue, delayed, all the things you can report from here. Okay. So if you want to report something, you can always basically go inside and you can see the details here. Okay. So because it's shipper, you only view it, therefore you get this view freight document. Okay. So you can see here that whether it's a plan, whether it's exceptional, whether it's reported on time. So again, once we go into the system, we'll see how it works, how it looks like. Okay. And here you can also see the map also. So this is from the shipper perspective. You can see where what is the source, intermediate stop, destination, route is actual or planned, status is normal or exceptional. Everything you can see it from here. You can also upload an attachment. Okay, lot of things you can do from here. Okay, this is for the settlement part. So settlement, again, this is another charge code. Charge code means you can create a new custom charge code which will be assigned to your TM charge code. So charge code means for the charge management perspective. So for example, this is my standard TM, transport management charge types. Charge code means charge types, and you have to map it to your charge code for your LBN. So this is the charge code for your LBN. Okay, this is the description, this is the code. Okay, and accordingly we need to map this, because the carrier may send something which is different to what LBN or to what SAP TM or LBN has it, right? So in order to do the mapping, we use such type of mapping table.
So again, this is required when the carrier is having his own.
Correct. Carrier is having or mapping its own charges in a different system, and then you have to map their Z charge code with the TM or LBN charge code. Then only the system will be able to recognize that, or else it will do the failure that charge code's not valid. Okay.
Mhm.
Again, we'll take a real-time example later on, and we'll run end to end. We'll see how that mapping is done. Okay. And if you don't want to enable it, you can disable also. See, there's a tab called as enable. That means whether you really want this mapping to be enabled or not. And you can remove it also, which is you can delete. You can upload mass in mass. If you want to upload your charge types and codes, you can do it in mass. You can download it also.
Just a question. Just a question.
Huh.
How do, let's say, the first three are meant for one carrier, the another three is meant for another carrier? How does system works like?
No, this is because see this you are logging in through one carrier ID only, na? Okay, so what happens here? You have the LBN ID for the carrier, right?
Uh-huh.
Means every carrier has a unique LBN ID. So that you need to map. You need to maintain it here. Okay, not here means in the shipper tenant, so that I know that for which carrier which ID is coming. You have a unique ID per carrier. So right now I have a this particular link what I have activated is mainly for my carrier DHL. Okay, so that's why I'm using DHL as a link to update or map this for DHL only. I will not be doing it for FedEx. For FedEx there will be a separate URL link, right?
But you are in the shipper login, right, or a carrier login?
No, this I'm doing in a shipper ID, but for every shipper ID I will have a unique link which will be pointing only to a specific carrier tenant. So there can be 10 carrier. Okay, so for 10 carrier I will have 10 different URL link also for the shipper. Okay, you can create because your link points to a specific recipient for the carrier. So when I'm logging into the system, I know that this particular this shipper tenant is applicable for only for that particular carrier. Now there is one setting which you have. Okay, that one URL link, shipper link, can also be applicable for 10 different carrier. Now in that case, what you have to do, if you see here, these in that case you are not making a differentiation, right? See, first of all, if for a carrier X if I don't have this, anyways this will be invalid for that mapping, right? So in your freight agreement, right, only I have this for carrier DHL, I don't have it for carrier carrier FedEx. So system, what will system do, whether my TM system is having this one. Now you can tell me that okay, two carriers can have the same charge type, right? In that case, it will be updated for the both the charge type. That's not a problem at all. So either you create one link which will be applicable 1:1 with carrier, or you can ideally that is how we do it. We create one link for shipper and we share that one URL link to 10 different carrier. So if this is not applicable for a specific carrier, system will not be able to process anything.
So that means, let's say I am a shipper, let's say Volvo. Volvo has a 10 carrier. So that means 10 shipper URL will be created and 10 shipper carrier link will be created.
No, what I said, you can maintain in both the ways. Okay, you can maintain one shipper URL and you can share this shipper URL into and you can link it with 10 different carriers also. Okay, the only thing what will happen there, if you are doing that approach, basically you will not be able, you will have a authorization restriction there. So what it will happen, if it is one shipper URL which is pointing to 10 different carrier URLs, okay, so that can be done. But whatever transactions are coming from different system, you have to manage this here, that what are the 10 different carriers I am pointing to. So that means you have to maintain all the different LBN IDs for different carrier. That can also be done. You can do it in that way also. Or else you create 10 different URLs, but that will take a lot of effort. You can understand, because the moment, if I have got 100 carriers, then you have to create 100 different shipper links, then that becomes a problem. Okay, so in that case, what will happen? As I told you, shipper tenant is not mandatory. We will not map anything in the shipper tenant. Will die when we are creating directly in the transportation management system. That data will only be visible in the carrier tenant. We will not set up shipper tenant in that case. So directly we are accessing the transportation application directly in the carrier tenant. That can also be done. You have different ways. So one way is you are directly sending the TM documents directly in the carrier tenant. Okay, in that case you are not creating any separate our shipper tenant. We'll just create one, when you are doing this TM documents from S4. Okay, you are just doing it, and then it will directly go into the carrier tenant. Only for the mapping of charge, we'll just create a dummy shipper ID, which you are seeing now. We'll maintain that conversion, we'll maintain that mapping sheet there, and that will go to the carrier tenant. So that is one way. Another way could be that you maintain unique combination of shipper with carrier tenant. So suppose you have got 10 different carrier tenants. Okay, so in that case you should create one shipper ID with your 10 different carrier tenants. But for that you need to have a unique LBN ID per carrier. So that is how with these two options it generally operates. Now which one we have to use, then we need to go in the explore phase how the carrier wants it, and accordingly you can set it up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say I'm totally confused. I don't know what to, I'm not able to understand. When I say when you say a collaboration portal is one single application, and what I understand the SNC, I really work on supplier network collaboration. So that supplier network collaboration portal, the company which hosts the portal has a full administration access. Okay, so then they onboard each supplier. Let's say supplier one, they onboard, and they provide the URL link, user ID, and password.
No, your question was about whether we. So what you do in collaboration portal? Suppose if you have 10 carrier.
Correct. Collaboration. See, collaboration portal is one single application. Correct. LBN is one application.
That's what I'm saying. One shipper ID you can post it to 10 different carriers. It's one application only, right?
Correct. Yeah. The second scenario, what you're explaining, it makes sense for me. Okay. So once, because as a shipper, I also need to administrate that LBN application, right? I have an authorization what TM system I am connecting with. the when I'm connecting the system TM system, is it done by the SAP or we can as an administrator of the PM LBN, I can I
No, you don't have to do. That's what I said also. That it will be SAP who will be managing the connections through that business partner profile ID. Na? You don't have to
so
do anything. Your main task in LVN system is mainly in the area of testing. Okay, you don't
mhm,
have to set up the connectivity and all. Nothing. It's all SAP's responsibility to manage those system setups and all. Okay, when they're giving you the system, you
mhm,
just need to ensure that my carriers are onboarded, and then you just start transacting. That's why I told you that the shipper tenant, which I told you, you'll
mhm.
see most of the time there is no documentation, because you can directly go into the freight order from your work list, and you can see whether you are receiving an updates or not. You don't need to
Uh-huh.
actually go again into shipper tenant.
Okay, that's why you're selling the shipper is a dummy. Okay,
Yes, yes, yes. That's
okay,
why I was saying that.
okay, okay, okay.
Okay, tomorrow I will do one thing. I will I,
Mm.
I will explain you with some landscape, so that it will be clear to you how the data flows. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, okay,
yeah. I think that will clear your doubt. Okay,
yeah, okay.
I know it is. See, it is little bit. See, collaboration portal. If you are directly, uh, SAP says it's like a collaboration portal, but it's not exactly collaboration portal. Collaboration portal was much more easier to orchestrate, but because this is a
Exactly.
cloud-based solution, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
I think you
Okay,
just, yeah, because
understood.
collaboration portal mainly, you just need to maintain the BPs, and then you just, it
Exactly.
was much more easier.
Exactly. We simply we have a supply collaboration portal. Let's say the person, the company which will host the portal. I mean, they buy the license from SAP, right, for the SNC portal, and they
Correct.
basically get the business partner from ERP, all the suppliers. Okay, and for each supplier, when they want to say, okay, I am onboarding the supplier under this collaboration portal, they trigger. They generate the user ID password. They share the link with the
Yeah,
supplier. They send a mail, please log in with this portal and then when the supplier logs in, they cannot see all the functionality what is available in there. They can only see well, a purchase order or schedules. Okay, that's the two things they can see. And when they want to execute the purchase order, they create a inbound delivery and print the labels and then they trigger the ASN message back to the in the portal. Okay, so the portal you can pretty much as an administrator you can manage a lot of things like the company which bought that license. Whereas
yeah,
supplier can only do certain functionality. He can't do many things.
correct. See, what you are saying is actually applicable here also. Okay,
Hmm.
but only thing is that because our onboarding steps are all initiated by SAP, so
Okay.
that's where the complexity arises. I'll draw some what to say a landscape for you, because
Uh-huh.
if you see the landscape, if you see the middleware, SAP has multiple variants in the LBN. Okay, even in the
Okay.
middleware, if you see, I was telling you, I was writing this. Okay, even in the middleware path also there are a lot of changes. There are 4 to 5 variants how this communication works. So
Hmm.
today I was just showing you, I give you just a feel of this app. Okay, we'll go into details, and tomorrow I will try to draw some landscape diagrams for you, so that you can correlate who is onboarding where and when, and so that you can correlate that. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So I think this part we already covered less. There is nothing different. This is the only about the intelligent insights. This is another new feature what SAP has brought in, but for that you need to buy again a separate license. Although they have put it under this LBN, but you cannot run unless you are procuring the license for this intelligent insights. Intelligent insight means more of an analytical view. Okay, lot of analytical view SAP has provided here, but it is as of now I will not go inside it. I'll tell you this, give you an overview later on. Okay, so you get some idea on what they do and all. Okay, see, it will ask for your user ID, password from OSS. Okay, so let us not go into it, because we have not procured the license for this. So we'll go into this later. Okay, so I have to. So this is what I have to cover just for the apps. So tomorrow I will go into little bit on the landscape part. Okay, like how the landscapes work on and how the data transfer and data, visualization can be there both from the TM perspective as well as from the LBN perspective. Okay.
Okay.
Okay then. Okay. Uh, we'll connect again tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
You're
This
talking
conference will
today,
now be recorded.
give some context or explain little bit that this is about this. May take us a little bit extra time today, but let's relate so that it's not going over the head.
Okay.
Thanks.
2 minutes. Jan is joining. Okay, 2 minutes, please. Virendra, we are good. Okay. Virendra, if you don't mind, just brief the last session what we done and go ahead. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I think just have a brief introduction. Who has joined or today? Today is the first class? Vijay. Can you just please give a small introduction about yourself?
Yeah, I am Vijay, working in for a client in Chicago, and I started with technical SAP ABAP. Now primarily into program management, managing one of the client whole IT stack.
Okay. So you are from the transport management background.
I have been learning, so I did a SAP TM training also with you.
Okay. 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 Thanks for joining. Uh, who else is there?
Yeah, thanks.
Srikar here.
Sandra.
Yeah. Yes, you
Um,
can. You can just yeah.
yeah, I have overall 9 years of experience. Initially started my career with EWM, so gradually streamlined into SAP TM. I'm aware of the TM process well, and looking forward to learn BN4L and advance into it.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Fine. Okay. Okay. So can everyone see the PPT? What I've shared?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So just a brief introduction about what is basically the importance of LBN here. I will not spend too much time here, but obviously,
Your microphone, I think there's some issue, Virendra.
am I not audible?
It sounds different. I mean, if it's only for me or others can confirm.
No, we can hear. Okay, this is Vijay.
Okay,
Yeah, we can hear you very
Or
well.
maybe issue from my side, sorry.
okay, fine. So basically, just give a brief introduction about this LBN part. So LBN is, if you see now, we are using basically multiple terminologies, whether we call it as logistics business network, or we also call it as business network for logistics, BN4L. So terminology is the same. And the main objective is that it's a cloud-based solution where we are trying to improve the collaboration between the carrier and the backend S4TM system. Okay.
So what happened is that when you are interacting or integrating your SAP transportation management system with different business partners, with different carriers and all, we need to have a holistic and a platform where the communication and the information exchange can be done in a seamless way. So previously, what we used to do? So previously, there were a lot of framework that were used, right? When you used to collaborate with carrier. Just to give some examples here. So you can have a S4 HANA TM system. Okay. Uh, so suppose you want to have a freight order being sent to the carrier. So what we used to do? Now carrier is in a different portal, right? Carrier is in this portal, correct? So in this case, what we used to do, we used to have some middleware, right? We used to have some middleware. So like for example, if you are using PI or if you are using, for example, CPI, what is it? So these were some of the middleware through which we used to map the web services, and that used to then go to the carrier, right? So carrier used to use their own portal. So there were two or three issues which we also always face. One is that the mapping has to be correct, because what SAP is sending, what is received by carrier, so that mapping has to be correct, number one. Number two, if the RFC setup, the connectivity between the systems also has to ensure that messages are seamlessly transferred between the multiple systems, right? Now, because of those, and always, if you remember, those who have also worked in support projects in transport management, mainly the interfaces were always a pain, right? So, the updates did not happen, or in some cases, maybe the outbound went through the carrier, but it did not reach to the S400 TM, or there was always a lag, or as the messages were stuck in the queue. So, although we used to use a lot of transactions and monitoring tools in the intermediate system, but still there was always the synchronization was always lost. Okay. So to overcome this issue, what we used to do, what SAP decided, that they will build a completely a robust solution within the cloud-based platform, whereby the backend TM system will use a particular tenant which is called as the logistics business network, which will be also be accessible to the carrier system. So if you see, this is the carrier, this is the shipper tenant. So why we call it as a tenant process? The main objective of using tenant is that the shipper will be able to run its own processes. This is type of a bridge which will exchange, which will transfer the data, and it will be made accessible to the carrier. So shipper will have their own user ID and password to access it. Carrier will have their own user ID and password to access it. And whatever updates were made, it was accessible to both the shipper as well as the carrier. Okay. So in this ways, the communication network and the communication exchange was much improved. And this is what SAP is actually propagating, that we should use the LBN network whenever you are trying to have any type of communication process with the carrier. Now, the next question was what processes we need to cover. See, basically, if you just go through the TM process, I assume that you are all are aware of the transport management process. So if you are not aware, let me know. But transportation management processes actually has four building blocks, right? One is the order management layer. Second is the transportation planning layer. Third is the transportation execution layer. And fourth is the charge management settlement or invoicing layer. So these are the four building blocks, right? And mainly the communication with the carrier starts with the execution process. Communication with the carrier starts with the invoicing and the settlement process. And also the communication starts when you are sending the freight order and you are trying to receive the confirmation from the carrier. Okay, so these are the major data exchange you do with the carrier. So following on that, if you see, when BN4L or LBN was introduced, they bought these different processes to be integrated across both the tenants. So that means if I talk about the tendering process, when the shipper is creating a request for quotation, there is an app where you can see the request for quotation was triggered by the shipper. And then when the carrier used to log into the system through the carrier tenant, they used to see this request for quotation, and accordingly they used to either accept or propose or reject. Okay. So based on that, the quotations were submitted by the carrier. So the quotation app was being reviewed by the shipper. Then the tendering manager used to review this quotation, and then they used to award it. And the awarding update also used to go back to the carrier. So if you see these two process, which is the standard, RFQ process for transport management, A seamless exchange of data, acceptance, proposal, rejection, response was possible using this network. So the carrier has its own tenant. They used to receive the quotation, they used to submit the rates, and then the shipper used to do the valuation and they used to award them. So it was much easier for both the shipper and the carrier to communicate with each other. So for that reason, the first process which they brought in the system was the freight tendering. Okay. Any question on this? The freight tendering.
Just one question,
Yeah.
Ravindra. At our client, we use
Mhm.
career collaboration portal.
Yeah.
So if we are using that, what different LBN is? Where is the distinguishing factor?
See, basically, this part which SAP brought in, mainly the career collaboration portal is on the on-premise solution, right? It is not at a cloud. Okay. So if you ask me from the functionality perspective, okay, there is not a huge difference. Okay, but since SAP has stopped all the, is not developing this tool as a whole, because they're currently moving from the collaboration portal to the, to this particular LBN. So the move to the cloud solution is achieved through this, right? So in terms of functionality, maybe it's not a huge difference we are having, but yes, in terms of the future roadmap of SAP, that's the, the part what SAP is propagating, that move to LBN.
So it is up to the client to client. Those who are
Yes,
maybe implementing fresh, they might be choosing LBN. But
correct.
if somebody is already using collaboration portal, not worth or not mandatory to move to LBN.
No, no, they should use either one. You should not, use both actually. Okay,
So they
because
should
or
either
else,
move to LBN. But is it worth suggesting to the client that move away from CCP to LBN, or there is no major difference and all their things are happening well in CCP itself?
see, CCP, as I told you, SAP, as per my knowledge goes, SAP is not making any further investments on CCP. Okay, so that means with every, SAP is going for every release feature, right? Okay, every yearly they are going now, right, for releasing the S4 HANA transportation management, right? So all the new features which they are bringing into SAP, TM in this S4 HANA, that is going to be available also in the LBN. They are not going to make this available in the CCP. Okay.
Okay.
So
The
if
future is LBN
okay,
basically.
yeah. So means if you think about how the different clients are going to benefit in the long run, then as of now they may live with CCP for some time, but in the long process, I think that will not be useful for them. Okay.
Okay. But right now, at current juncture where we stand, are there
Yeah.
any distinguishing factor saying that why LBN is better? Like, for example, you started your talk with SAPTM. There are three issues wherein mapping, RFC, stuck in the queue and all that. But in CCP versus LBN, are there any such bottlenecks which are being addressed in LBN?
I will maybe I will tell you this when I come. I have one session on this. What are the various bottlenecks which LBN accesses? That not accesses, but helps to address. Okay.
Okay, okay,
So I will explain this. Okay.
okay.
Because right now, if I tell you something, maybe it will not be of much use to you because you are not fully aware of the various terminologies they use it. Okay. So, but I have a session for this, that what are the entire benefits? Because see, one thing within the LBN, when we talk about LBN actually has three subparts also. Okay. One is so this part what we see is part of freight collaboration under LBN or BN4L. Okay. And using this, if you are incurring one more license, you are also accessing the full application of global track and trace. If you are buying another license within the LBN, you can also buy the entire batch traceability feature within LBN. Similarly, you can also access the intelligent insight platform within LBN. So there are four subparts to the main BN4L. So there are four pillars. Okay. So those things, if you want to have it end-to-end process, then obviously CCP, you will not able to get all those information within CCP. Okay, so I will come to those because right now means it will be difficult for you to understand what those features are.
Sure, sure.
Okay, but I
Thank you.
will. I have a slide for that.
Okay, thanks, Virendra.
Virendra, I have one question. So,
Yeah.
also this Project 44, where does it fit in?
Okay. You have a good question. So I will explain this a little bit later. Maybe if you see here, can you see the slide?
Yes, Virendra.
Yeah. So if you see, I have one session entirely for this Project 44. Okay. So it fills into the landscape here because Project 44 basically is nothing but it's a visibility network, and that visibility network you can always interconnect with LBN. See, actually, see what is the use case here, that many of the carriers, owing to the administrative effort, don't directly go into the LBN process. Okay, so they have their own third-party network. Okay, like InstaFreight, Uber Freight, Project 44. These are some of the specific visibility networks which they further use to communicate with LBN, and for that also you have to buy additional licenses. Okay, and each of these, it's not only Project 44, there are some other visibility networks also where SAP directly communicates with the LBN. So in that case, obviously if you want to have a real-time feature, expected time of arrival, pricing, subcontracting, so these are all these third-party tools which are integrated with LBN. So I'll explain this to you how this communication happens. But directly, if you see here, just as of now, to address your part, you have a connectivity with LBN, and that LBN is connected to the third-party system, S4HANA system, to the shipper tenant. Okay, so this is the process flow you have. I'll explain you this when I come to the Project 44. But I
Sure,
cannot
sure, got it.
give you an end-to-end demo for this because you can understand it's a visibility network which is outside the purview of us. We cannot buy the license of Project 44 like that. Okay.
Got it. This slide itself gives me a lot of
Yeah.
insights. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Where I am. Okay. Okay. So this is one of this feature. The second feature is the subcontracting feature. So when I talk about subcontracting, see, again in SAP Transportation Management, you know what is the subcontracting, right? It's not the usual material management subcontracting feature where you are giving the sub components and you get the end product, right? That is not the thing. So here, subcontracting means you're outsourcing your transportation operation to the LSP, freight forwarder, carrier, etc. Right? So now, suppose you have a freight order, you have to send the freight order to the carrier. So when you're sending the freight order to the carrier must see, right, what is there in the freight order, whether he is able to have the truck availability on that day. He is going to check whether he really has the the operations in that particular purchasing organization region or not. He checks that whether if there's a requirement in the freight order that you are transporting both DG and non-DG goods, he has the required truck capacity to handle those. So all these things, the freight order, when you are sending to the carrier, he has to basically analyze those. So for that, he can either confirm the freight order, or he can propose some changes in the freight order, or he can also reject the freight order. So whatever he does, confirm, propose, or reject, that gets updated back into this app. So if you see, there is an outbound from TM. Okay, so from outbound from TM is when you are sending the freight order to the carrier receives it and it then confirms or rejects. So that means it's a communication back now. That means it is inbound to the freight order or SAP TM system, right? So both these communications, sending and receiving the confirmation, is again part of the subcontracting process. So again, you see, means you don't have to worry on the interfaces because just they have a carrier tenant. They will just log into the tenant and they will just see whether the freight order is visible to them or not. And then accordingly, they will take the required action. I'll show you this scenario here, both the subcontracting process today. Same thing on the events reporting. Events reporting means what? See, in events, there are two types of, I hope all of you know what is event. Anyone know what is event?
Yeah, every event which is being happen, like loading or truck departing, all the activities which happens, it should be registered into our execution part, right, as an event
Mhm.
in our freight order document. so that we understand what event is happening. Every event, every activity which is done by the carrier will be reported.
So what is an event? Event loading means if I say what is an event, what is the importance of event? What will you say? Event is nothing but it's a milestone. Okay, in one words. So when I talk about milestone, what is a milestone? Can anyone tell me? So milestone means mainly used in the execution process, right? So for example, when the truck carrier is coming to pick up the goods, so pickup is one of the event. When the loading has been done in the truck, loading is another event. When the departure of the truck happens, departure is another event. Similarly, unloading is another event. POD is another event. So all these are different milestones of your event, of your transportation process. So when we talk about events reporting, so in that case again, once the freight order which is has a status in execution is sent to the to your the carrier tenant, they will report the events. So this is what we call it as a pull mechanism. Pull mechanism means basically TM is triggering the transportation freight order document and it is sent directly to the carrier. Okay, now in real time, if you see, if you are not using LBN, we generally use the push process. Push process means basically in your carrier will directly report the events for the freight order, which is acting as a tracking ID for them. But when you are talking in terms of this LBN, it is always a pull process because TM has to send the freight order. Against that, they will report the events. Okay. So it's a real-time update which happens and it will also update directly in the execution node of the freight order. Okay. Clear to everyone? And finally, you have the settlement process. So settlement, I think all of you know that once the charge calculation is done, now the time will come where you need to basically generate the carrier invoice, right? So in order to generate the carrier invoice, again, the freight order has to be there, freight settlement can be there, and based on the charges calculated, the invoice can be submitted, which will be updated back from LBN back into the TM process. So you can see the invoice document number in the LBN in the TM system also. So that's why, so these are the 4 building blocks which is currently being supported in the LBN, and we will see all these processes. And just for your reference today, so there was some, see, one more thing I just tell you, because it's a cloud-based solution, we don't have the luxury to do enhancements or configurations of our own choice. It is directly centrally managed by TM. So as an implementation team in any SAP project for LBN, our responsibility lies mainly in the area of testing. Okay, so creation of accounts and creation of your specific profiles, making the carrier onboarded in the logistics business network. So all these things are basically taken care from SAP perspective. Okay, so SAP basically gives an completely a full PDF pager to those carrier who are going to be onboarded, and then once the onboarding process is completed, then from TM side it is just sending the documents and then received by the carrier, and then the carrier responds to it. Okay, so you will not have the luxury to do any type of development enhancement within the LBN portal because it's a cloud-based solution where where the SAP really handles all those enhancements and configurations from there. Okay, now one thing what you need to understand that, so you can ask what is the role then in the for the implementation partner here. So there are 2 roles. First role is obviously you have to you have to trigger the information from TM. That is one role. That means that creation of the transaction data. There is also some master data which I will tell you tomorrow. So there are certain master data which we need to create. Those master data maintenance also has to be done by the implementation partner. Okay, any questions so far?
Yeah, Virendra, I have one. So, as from real-time perspective, you know that customization sometimes is mandatory, right? So, in such cases, when we're using BN4L, how do we achieve this
Yeah,
requirement?
okay, so when you talk about customization, basically either customization is in the freight order types or customization in the form of events. Now when we are talking about events, Basically, in this demo, we'll not only focus on LBN, we'll also focus on GTT, Global Track and Trace. Okay. So if you are passing any custom events, it has to be an enhancement. See, you cannot do any enhancement in LBN, but in GTT you can do enhancement. But for doing the enhancement in GTT, you have to be a technical consultant, because there they use the models and all, generating models, template models. There are a lot of standard extractors which are defined, okay, in GTT. So to answer your question, from the apart from the events perspective, there is not so much enhancements you foresee. Okay, there is one app which you have there, so where you can customize your custom charts types. That is the only one app where you are maintaining, where you have to do. You have to also maintain one EDI communication profile in the backend, and rest all are taken care by the standard integration, because there are standard lot of web services are there between the TM, between the LBN and all, which takes care of this mapping. So there will not be a huge amount of customization and enhancements. If you see for LBN, I don't see too much of a scope there, because what data you need for LBN to trigger? You need the freight order, you need the charge calculation there. So for freight order, it's a standard process. Only for events, you have to do some enhancement in the GTT if you are using GTT, or else in LBN, if you are not using GTT for events, you can use LBN also. In that LBN, you have to use the standard events unless SAP enhances it. So that's a use case specific to the client, which is not visible to other clients. Okay.
But we can still establish a CPI connection for such conditions, right, with the carrier, specifically
CPI
for those
connection, yes. CPI,
parallelly having this BN4L, and on the other side and CPI connection just for those customized XMLs
no,
to
see,
process.
just establishing CPI connection will not help. We have to do a data mapping. Okay. So for example, I just give you an
Yeah,
example.
obviously. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm aware. So
yeah.
both can be possible, right?
Both can be possible. Just to
Okay.
give an example, in my last project, the carrier said that we'll send ZPOD as an event. Okay. But in standard, we don't have ZPOD. So all the messages were failing. Then within the CPI, what we did, we told them that you have to map your external event codes to internal event codes, right? ZPOD to POD. So there was a mapping table done in GTT. The moment we used LBN, within the LBN, they said it's an enhancement which SAP reluctantly denied. Then they told that if you have got so many events, you take the GTT module, and there you can do the standard configuration and enhancement. So business, I think they configured around 30 custom events. So they use GTT to report the events. But for the other processes, they use the standard LBN FC collaboration process. FC means freight collaboration. Again, I tell you, freight collaboration covers all these four. But if you are not using a standard events, you don't use this. Then you go for GTT, because GTT is also part of BN4L. Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Virendra.
understood.
Hello.
Yeah.
Uh, GTT is a part of LBN, right?
No. See, that's the catch there. You're right. It is okay. Let me show you this.
Because
See,
that is
if
the
you
three
see,
three things you explained: freight collaboration,
yeah,
global track and trace, and material
yeah.
traceability.
If you see within the freight collaboration also, see this flow which I showed you now. This is the
Mm-hmm.
flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So within freight collaboration, all these four components are there.
Mm-hmm.
All these four components are there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are going for a custom events and all, better don't use the events within the freight collaboration. You add an additional license for GTT. The reason
Mm-hmm.
is GTT is a replica of event management. I don't know how much of you guys know about event management, but event management is a module which is not only used for reporting events. Event management is a module which is also used for doing exception monitoring, analytical integration. There are a lot of features within event management. But because event management is not a cloud-based solution, so they have replicated event management solution using GTT. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, and if you are customizing any events, it is not possible for a function consultant to customize events in GTT. There are a lot of technical enhancements you need to do. Okay, so before you actually pitch in the GTT, please involve a technical guy, or else you will not be able to do it.
What
That is
kind
number
of
one.
technical? Is it ABAP or
You have to
Fury?
set up. You have to set up some. Yeah. FIOD obviously is required. No, but FIOD you don't actually see. FIOD is required if you want to have a custom app. We are not talking about custom app. We are talking about custom events.
Mm-hmm.
So see in events, see the communication between GTT and LBN within TM takes place through IDOC. Okay. So, so when you're configuring any custom event, you have to generate some extractors. You have to generate how the expected date and time will be done, how the actual events will be updated.
No,
So
no,
for that,
that is fine. But what kind of technical skill we are talking?
yeah, I'm talking about that only because GTT does not have any
No,
transaction or
no.
master
That my
data.
question is simple. Is it a ABAP skill or it's a Java and is it .NET or what is that skill?
No, no, no. See, that is mainly the Java backend you need. Okay, because when you talk about the template models, it's not directly an ABAP language they write. Okay, so there are some. I will explain. Actually, it's a JSON format they use. Okay,
Mhm.
where the communication is done with LBN using the JSON format. So for JSON format identification, you need to have the technical guy in the backend to write those codes for those specific custom events,
Okay,
which is it is difficult for us to generate those. So that technical expertise is required.
okay,
But
okay.
anyway, that we will not be able to portray because we are mainly focusing on the standard events.
Mhm.
So either you can use this or you can this for your events, but rest of the process you can use this.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one question. Sorry if everybody is asking question. I have
No,
one
no
stupid
problem.
question. Let's say I am shipper. Let's say Tata Motors is one shipper and Mahindra is another shipper. Okay.
Ah,
Both are talking to the same carrier. Okay.
ah,
Let's say some local transport company carrier. Okay. Now, both Tata Motors are also having LBN and Mahindra is also having their own LBN tenant. Okay. Now, with respect to carrier, does they need to look into two different uh, LBN URL to look what is the freight order status or collaboration need to be done in two different links, or carrier will have only one?
yeah. See, career now the thing is you are implementing TM for whom? You are implementing TM for Tata, for example. You are implementing TM separately for Mahindra. Which company? Which second company you said?
Mahindra, right?
Right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So if you see here, you need to first of all you need to have these links. One is the carrier link, one is your LBN link. LBN means your shipper link. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
for both of these links, you need to have two different links for the shipper.
Mm-hmm.
Now coming to the carrier, see because both are different companies. So what SAP can do, see each of these business partners has a two types of account. One is a main account, one is a sub account, and the sub account can be region based. Okay, so that means the carrier. So for example, if you're operating in the APAC, you can have one regional account. If you're operating in Europe, you can have another regional account. Now since Mahindra and the Tata has its own, it will have two separate shipper link. But the carrier, they can also have two separate links. The reason is if you are mixing both this into one carrier tenant, okay, see the BP ID can differ, right? For shipper, the BP ID will be X. For Tata and for Mahindra, the carrier BP ID
Yeah,
will be
yeah,
Y.
correct. My question is very simple. So that means the carrier should access two different links.
Obviously,
One for
you cannot.
one for
You
interacting
can
with the
have in
Tata
one
and
link.
for
Yeah,
Mahindra.
yeah, yeah.
But in case if they say no, I don't want to do, then they have to do a interface. That is the project
Yeah,
44.
see, ideally, means yeah, Project 45 is a different ballgame.
Mhm.
Career cannot say in that way. That see, the thing is, if they say no, I don't want to, then I will not onboard them because no, but first, yeah, if you go to any type of LVN, is first your GDP, global data security privacy, that has to be maintained. You cannot have a using across one carrier tenant. You cannot access multiple shipper data there. That is obviously against the data privacy, right?
No, no,
You
that
cannot
is
make it
my
public.
question is very simple. If carrier says we cannot able to have, let's say, carry in the carrier side, I have a carrier, customer service
Yeah,
person in the carrier side, and if I need to interact with the Tata, I have to log into this
correct,
URL, and if I need to
correct.
do Mahindra, instead of that, carrier is so big, they can say, okay, we will do a EDA integration with the LBN system. Correct? This is what you said in the first day.
Yeah,
Okay. So that they don't need to log into different portals for one for Tata, another for Mahindra.
portal is not the same, but as I said, portals may not be the same. But I was talking mainly about the links. I think we are mixing this P44 and all this. Leave aside that. That's a different thing.
No, I'm
Okay.
not mixing
Yeah.
P44.
Yeah.
Project 44, I am not mixing. Let's leave
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
that. My question is very simple. If I am a carrier X, if I need to collaborate with Tata Motors and I need to collaborate with Mahindra and Mahindra, as a customer service person in the carrier side, I need to, if I need to look into what is the freight order coming from Tata Motors, I have to log into one URL. And if I need to check freight order coming or quotation coming from Mahindra, I have to log into another URL. Correct?
Correct. Correct.
Otherwise, then we have to. Otherwise, the carrier can build a EDI integration with LBN for both the Tata Motors and
Yes. Yes.
this one. Okay.
The
Understood.
LBN integration, okay. So when you're talking about the EDI integration, basically, okay. So I will explain you because there are different ways by which the communication can be set up. Okay.
Mhm.
So obviously, when you talk about EDI integration, there are certain process where from LBN you make a EDI, mapping with your carrier portal. Okay, so there are 4 to 5 variations of the landscape. I'll talk about the
Yeah,
landscape.
fine. I'm not going into the detail. I
Right.
just want to say we are
Yes, yes,
electronically
that is possible.
integrating so that a customer service person from the carrier side doesn't need to log into different
No, no, yeah,
tenant, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'll just show you. See, anyway, we'll go into the details, but I'll just show you how the look and feel of the system. Suppose I'm creating a sales order, just a look and feel, okay? Because so because currently SAP is updating some patch. Okay, so because of this, the system was down since the last few days. Okay, because they have to introduce some few notes which they have done it today only. Okay, so just before this class only we got the system back. So I just tell you one thing so that you can understand the look and feel. Suppose I'm
Mhm.
creating a sales order. Okay, and I will generate my freight unit. So this is suppose your sales order. The number is generated. I go to the freight unit. I go to TM status. I go to the document flow. I go to freight unit. SAP is still working on it. It will be handed over by tomorrow. Okay. So that's why I told Naveen that just let us have a small session today. So what we did, suppose from here, I create my freight order. Okay.
Mhm.
So I select freight order.
Mhm.
You can also use the transportation cockpit. Ultimately,
Mhm.
objective is to create
Yeah,
your freight
correct.
order.
Mhm.
So if you see freight order created, I go into the freight order. So I've set up the carrier whose ID is very much specific. Okay. So when let me save it. Okay. So I click on this freight order. Okay. I go to the general data. Okay. I go to edit. Now the most important part is that I need to enter the carrier. So my carrier is this one. Okay. And my purchase organization is this one. Okay.
We need to enter the means of transport also, right?
Not required. You can enter it. I'm just showing you the look and feel. When we
Yeah.
run the end to end, we'll do that. Okay. Okay. If you want, you can also enter means of transport. No problem. Okay. Let me enter the vehicle. Okay. I click on save. Okay. And then what happens? And then I click on subcontracting. Suppose I want to send this freight order to the carrier. Okay.
Mhm.
So data saved successfully. If you go to the status, it should be sent. Okay. And then I quickly check. So it's for what is the one minute? If I go back, Okay. 1 minute. Okay, freight order is to 42614. And if I now go to, let me check if the outbound message has gone from my TM. I go to SRT_money. Okay. So if you see it's delivered. Okay. And I'll go into this details later on what is passed. Okay. So I can see already that this is passed on 143. So ideally now let me go into the, the LBN. Okay. The carrier portal. So I have a link here. This is the link. So my freight order number is 42614. So if I now go here, so I will explain these apps later on. So if you go into this freight order management, you will see there is an app which counts freight order for confirmation one. Now if I go to this app, you will see that 42614 is there, right? Okay. Now you can go into details of this. Sorry. You can go details of this again. I will now it is said response is required. So the carrier has to respond now. So carrier says, okay, I confirm. Okay. Now once I confirm it, okay, now I go back to my freight order again, 42614.
Can
I
you
click
go
on,
to the status already? It's sent. Okay, subcontracting status sent. Okay.
I already showed you, no, it is sent.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I just missed. Sorry.
Yeah. So now if you see, I have the carrier is confirmed. Let's see what updates it brings back to SAP TM. That's why a little bit SAP is working, because after the upgrade, this processing back is taking a little bit of time. Okay. So let me just close this again. So if I go back, hopefully by tomorrow this will be resolved, because see, confirm. Okay.
Mhm.
Now suppose I want to report the events. What I will do, I will make sure that first of all my freight order is ready for execution, right?
Mhm.
It's ready for execution. Click on save. And the triggering point to GTT. So I'll show you GTT ready for execution is here in execution status. Okay. So the moment I click on in execution, now I'll go to 42614 again. Now for that I will just use my GTT module, so in this course we are showing both LBN as well as GTT. Okay. So I'm just opening the link here.
So GTT, this link, it is logged in as a carrier, right?
GTT global track and trace link is for the carrier, or
Mhm.
else how will they report? So if you
Yeah.
go to this fulfillment tracking, okay, you don't have to see all these apps, because GTT is not only integrated with TM, it is for inbound process, outbound process, everywhere. If you see SO, PO, everything. So for us, it is track shipment. Okay. So 42614 should be there. Let's see. So see 42614. Okay. So I just go inside, and if I scroll down, suppose I want to report the events. If you go down, suppose I want to report the events, proof of pickup. These are the standard events. Okay. So I just go inside it and I just click on report event. So my planned event was proof of pickup. Okay. You can give some more text, event reason, and all these means of transport that long. I don't need to worry so much. My important information is this one, and my important information is the actual occurrence. Okay. And I click
Before
on
that,
the.
can we go to the event tab in the freight order?
So if you go to the event tab, nothing is there. It's blank. If you see it. If you go to the execution node, nothing is there.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So now if I go back here, now where I was, I need to click on report event. Okay. Event is set for processing.
Mhm.
Okay. And then now if I go back here, refresh, proof of pickup happened. Okay. And if you see there, reported by event notification. So this is the service, the bulk event notification service, which is used.
But just now you said GTT is we are using GTT inside freight order collaboration, but you showed a link outside.
Where did I say it is within? You did not understand what I meant. I told
Okay.
you, this is the three components. I never
Mhm.
said it's. So these three components are within LBN, but if you have to use the GTT, it's a
Mhm.
separate license. This is a separate license. This is a separate license. Each of them will have their own unique ID. You cannot buy the license of freight collaboration and run GTT. That is not possible. These are the three subcomponents which
Mhm.
you need to have a separate ID to link with it. Okay.
So when we buy the LBN license, we have to buy all the three.
Yes. So you have to tick mark what you are subscribing.
Okay.
Okay.
So the GTT link you showed, that means because you said inside freight collaboration also we can trigger track and trace. I
Yes.
mean,
So within freight collaboration also you're right.
mhm.
So if I go to the freight collaboration, that is one of the area which SAP was working on because so if I go to the carrier link again, let me see if it is showing now because there was one issue which they were because of that patch they were actually working on that event issue only. Let's see. So if I go into the execution process, freight order for reporting. So right now, if you see this, all orders 42601 is not coming. So ACP. So now if I go to view freight orders, so this is not coming here. So SAP is still working on this. Okay. If you see 4260, yeah, that one is not coming here. Okay. So that's
But
why.
you just now confirmed, right? Using this. When you got the freight
That was
order,
GTT. That was GTT.
Why?
no, that is the event reporting.
What confirmation you're looking? I'm not understanding.
No,
I
the
said
freight order
even.
first when you created a
Mhm.
freight order sent to carrier. So you
Ha,
looked into the carrier portal, freight order collaboration,
ha,
that
ha.
link, and you said, okay, I confirm this, and then it got the status confirm, receive,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So that is this link.
This is this link. Yes.
Yes, but you are saying you can't see it now after confirming.
No, Virendra. He's thinking you confirmed it via Fight Collaboration Portal, but you did it via GTT, right?
No, no. I confirmed it via F. Again, I repeat. I confirm it via FC. Only for the events I use GTT. Repeatedly, I'm saying this to you. I am only reporting it through GTT because SAP's note is still not working for the events reporting here. So when I send the freight order to carrier, I use freight collaboration. When I receive the confirmation from carrier, I use the freight collaboration. Only for the global track and trace, that means when only for the events reporting, I'm using GTT. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, same. He was asking. Yes.
The same only I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the only thing. Okay. So this is just a look and feel. I wanted to give it to you that the data
Uh,
exchange and how it
Virendra,
happens.
just one last question.
Yes, yes.
Uh, this all three separate licenses. First
Uh-huh.
question is who buys these licenses, carrier or shipper?
Shipper. Shipper has to request. Shipper
Shipper
has to
has
request.
to request all these licenses, get it
Yes,
all set up, and
correct.
courier will only log in here and be
Yes,
using it.
correct.
Okay. And uh, why do we need three separate sub licenses? Can we survive with one without having the other functionality? How the whole integration will work if there is only one license?
Okay, I will answer you tomorrow on this because for that you need to know what are the different features supported by GTT. As I told you, if you are using the freight collaboration, you are just allowed to even report events, but you will not be getting any exception reporting feature. You will not be getting any alert feature there. So for that, you need to little bit know about event management. So which I don't want to discuss now. So there are a lot of other features for track and trace. Okay, and one more thing, global track and trace GTT is not only for TM. Okay, it is used for all your procurement to pay process, your ASNs, your sales order fulfillment process, everything. So based on that, you need to take a call whether you need GTT or whether you really can survive without taking GTT. If your only objective is that I just want to report events, I don't care if my events is not reported, even it is overdue, even if event notification I don't want to receive because there is a delay in events reporting. If you don't care about those, then why to spend so much money on buying the license? So the business use case is the driver here. We'll discuss in details tomorrow. Okay. Any other question from anyone?
Uh, so this is for TM. This is the substitute. GTT is only the substitute to event management. There is no other tool in the market, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And GTT versus MTT. If you can just spend another 30 seconds on that, what is the difference? GTT
GDT
versus MTT.
versus
Material traceability.
material traceability and GTT has no relation. Okay, material traceability is when you are basically want to have a visibility of your batches, your sub characteristics, origins, everything. So when you talk about batch management feature, you want to track the attributes of batches for a particular material. Then it's a type of algorithm which will tell you the batches genealogy. Okay, so from which country, from which region, from which city, which attributes. So they'll give you a chronological sequencing. I have one screenshot. I'll share it with you tomorrow how it works. But as of now, I have only done one project on this on this batch genealogy. Okay, or the this one. Okay, I'll show you a screenshot. You can understand tomorrow. Tomorrow I will explain you. But that has no resemblance to what events does. Okay, events is for execution. But batch attributes is not mainly for events, right? Batch attributes is mainly at a product item level attributes which you want to have a detailed information. So that's why those both are completely independent.
Okay, Virendra.
Okay.
Berendra,
Yeah.
this is Jan. I have a question.
Yes.
Here in the Freight collaboration,
Uh-huh.
you said that you can see events as well. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so there is some kind of link between GTT and Freight collaboration.
No, both are independent modules. So if
Okay.
you want, you only can subscribe. See, as I told you, it's a subscribe based model.
Yeah.
So it may be that you don't want to subscribe for events reporting in freight collaboration, you want to do it through GTT, then you only see GTT. If
Oh,
you say I only
okay.
want to subscribe, I don't want to subscribe in GTT, I want to see the events reporting in LBN. I don't know whether last week when we had one the first overview, I had shown you in one of the app where you can subscribe, if you remember.
Yeah, right.
There was a tick
Yeah.
mark there. So that subscription will decide the
Okay.
model what you want to use. Accordingly, SAP will charge you.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I have to drop off now. But tomorrow we'll start discussing about this in more details. I'll tell you what is the master data setup, what is required to activate all this GTT and this LBN part. Okay. In the meantime, please take access about the system from Naveen. Okay, he will share you all the details.
Okay.
Okay, then thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. We'll meet again.
Yes,
Thank you,
Virendra, we
Virendra.
have shared the access with everyone. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Virendra, can you
Okay.
be there in the call for 1 minute? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Uh, uh, yeah, everyone, you can leave. Okay. Yeah. Hopes everyone is
Okay.
able to access the server, right? If any issues, okay, contact team. They will help you out. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Naveen.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye. One minute. Let me stop that. Let